D.L. Moody was a great preacher, pastor in Moody Church in Chicago. Caught on fire, and I believe he went for a sabbatical. He was worn out. He went to London. He said, I'm going to go over and I'm going to sit and I'm going to listen. I'm not going to preach. He'd been there 5 years earlier and preached in London, and Mary Ann Adlard had heard about that and read in the newspaper about the great meetings that Moody had and what a tremendous revival they had under Moody. And Mary Ann Adlard was a bedridden church member who was not able to get out and go to church. You know what? She began to pray, Lord, send revival. They were going to a little church there in London. Pray, and she prayed for years. Lord, send revival. And she didn't pray, send revival. Send revival and send us Mr. Moody. So her sister came home one Sunday morning from the morning service and said, hey, you're not going to believe who was in church and preached this morning at our church. Said Mr. Moody. And said Mary Ann, and said Moody. Moody said that morning he preached, and he said, oh, it's like a train wreck. He said, like the people were not engaged, the people were not excited, people were just bored out of their... And he said he didn't even want to go back and preach, but he had committed himself to coming back on Sunday night. He didn't even want to go back and preach that Sunday night. And Mary Ann Adlard said, I'm not going to eat Sunday. I'm going to put my food away, and I'm going to fast and pray that God will bless Mr. Moody. He said, Moody got up to preach that night, and he said, man, something was different. He said, begin to preach, and people on the edge of their seats, there was excitement. And said he gave the invitation, all those want to be saved to come and join the church. Said, stand up. And he said, everybody almost in the church stood up. And he said, I thought to myself, I must have left something out. She said, sit down. And he said, I went back through the plan of salvation again, telling people what to do. And said, now, if you really see you want to stand up, he said, they stood up again. Even more people stood up. And said, Moody said, They must not understand. She said, we're going to close the service out. Anybody that wants to be saved or become a member of the church, meet with me and the pastor over here in another room. And said almost the whole church came over there. And said Moody got in there and looked at him and said, and got up and gave the gospel to him again. He said, I thought they were confused. So he was going the next morning, get on a train and leave, and somebody ran him down with a message from the pastor and said, Mr. Moody, they're still at church. People are still at the prayer meeting this morning wanting you to come back. Would you come back and preach tonight? Moody went back and preached, and I think about 400 people saved before it was all said and done in that little church